Every genre has one game or one series that sets the standard for everything else. For the 3D platformer, it was Mario 64, for the Metroidvania, it was Symphony of the Night, for survival horror, it was LEGO Star Wars. As the years have gone on, we've seen games that have continued to push their genres further and further, building on the foundation of what came before. And then we have kart racers. You'd be a fool to argue that Mario Kart didn't make the genre what it is, and to argue that it's gone basically uncontested, you'd be me. Back in the previous decade or two, we saw loads of series and companies throwing their hats into the ring. You had Pac-Man Kart, you had Disney Kart, you had f***ing Jar Jar Kart because our species did not deserve to survive this long. Hell, Sonic the freaking Hedgehog tried 3 times, and while his second attempt was actually pretty good, he still, in my opinion, could not reach that gold standard. And here we are in 2020, and as far as I'm concerned, the only competition still standing and giving Mario a run for his money is Crash. But as much as I do love some of those other games, most of them don't really do much that Mario Kart doesn't. To be clear, I'm not saying I blame them. This genre actually has a deceptively delicate formula, and why fix what's not broken? But there was one game that really tried to switch things up, and it came out all the way back in 1997, so let's see just who was able to give Nintendo a run for their money. God damn it. Diddy Kong Racing is one of the most interesting kart racers of all time. It's one of the only ones that ever went out of its way to truly differentiate itself, and since it was made by Rareware during the height of their success for the N64, it was about as direct as Mario Kart competition could have possibly been. We all know that I love kart racers, but we still need to start things off with some brutal, sad honesty. So, I play Genji in Overwatch. I unironically like K-pop. I actually thought Mighty No. 9 wasn't that bad. My entire face is made of CGI. Felony murder. It exists. One time I went to the store to buy something and I couldn't find what I was looking for, so I just left my cart in the aisle. I mean, I just f***ing left it there. Oh, also I have 2 copies of this game and I've still never played it. Well, I suppose that's kind of a lie. It is true I didn't grow up with an N64 and thus never had the opportunity to play this version, but I did have the opportunity to play its remake, Diddy Kong Racing DS, and I loved it back in the day. The question is, did I love it because it was actually good, or because I got to fly a plane as Tiny Kong? The jury's out on that one, but at least I can find out if the original game still holds up. Things kick off with a cutscene introducing all the characters while presenting you with one of the greatest pieces of title screen music ever created. Oh my god, let's not waste time, folks. David Wise returned from the Donkey Kong Country games and gave us a truly phenomenal soundtrack. The music's so goofy and whimsical, like stuff you'd hear taking a stroll through a theme park, which is perfect for this game. And yet, despite how many of them are absolute jams, I don't know if any of the songs live up to this legendary main theme. Back in the character department, though, we've got 8 unlocked from the start and 2 that are unlockable by completing certain tasks. 7 of these lads were created specifically for this game and have never been seen outside of it, but joining them alongside the main man Diddy are, interestingly enough, Banjo and Conker. In a way, it's almost more of a Rareware kart racer than a Donkey Kong one, and in retrospect, it's pretty hilarious to see Conker in an E-rated game, considering, you know, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Also, it's perhaps worth mentioning that, according to the manual, this game is canon to the rest of the Banjo-Kazooie series. I mean, sure, why not? So the first thing that everyone remembers about Diddy Kong Racing, and the big thing that sets it apart for most of its competition even to this day, is that it actually has a story in what it calls adventure mode. While the manual goes weirdly in-depth about everything, it all just kinda boils down to Wizpig here being an asshole, and having to race to collect golden balloons that break the spell he's put on the island and save the day. And the way you get from track to track is by traveling around the hub world, with doors that take you to smaller areas with 4 tracks each. I feel like this place was a lot bigger in my memories. There honestly isn't that much to do other than interact with the genie of the island, Taj, who grants you access to my favorite part of the game, alternate vehicle options. While certain tracks are designed for 1 or 2 vehicles in specific, a whopping 10 of them allow you to race in a kart, hovercraft, or plane. The kart is pretty standard stuff, letting you power slide when you hold R and shitting the bed when you go off-road. Meanwhile, the hovercraft moves forward at a relatively consistent speed and is much harder to turn, so to compensate for this, it doesn't lose any speed at all off-road. And lastly, the plane lets you fly. Liar. It's easily the hardest to control, and if you take a hit, you'll come crashing down to Earth. It should go without saying that out of all the things this game brought to the table, this one is the most drastic. I can't even imagine trying to balance track design when your players could all be using entirely different gameplay styles, but from what I can tell, it was done well enough, and the hovercraft and plane benefits inherently help you keep up with the karts. Something else that I've never seen outside of this game is its system of handling items. Rather than just hitting an item box and getting what you get, there are 5 different colors of balloons, all of which containing a different item. Red balloons give you attacks that fire fire forwards, blue balloons give you speed boosts, green balloons give you attacks that fire backwards, yellow balloons give you shields, and the rainbow balloons give you heartburn because they just don't work half the time. What am I doing wrong? What's even more interesting though is that if you collect a balloon of the same color as an item you already have, it'll upgrade to a stronger one up to 2 times. So for example, if you collect 1 green balloon, you'll get an oil slick that makes an enemy spin out when they hit it. But if you get 2 more, you can upgrade to the bubble, which holds whomever hits it in the air so they lose more time. And if you grab a couple rainbow balloons, you can upgrade to acid reflux. God damn it! My biggest problem with this concept has got to be the fact that hitting a balloon of a different color completely overwrites the item you have. I suppose it's meant to be a risk-reward type of thing, so if you want to hold on to a powered-up item, you'll have to dodge all the other balloons. In practice, though, I never feel like, ah, darn, I should have used my item first. It's a lot closer to son of a bitch, I didn't mean to hit that, especially when some of these tracks have lines of balloons that take up most of the path, and sometimes just don't have the color you're holding on to. Speaking of the tracks, I'm not so sure how I feel about them. Plenty of them are pretty fun to race on, but the vast majority feel super generic. I think it's just kind of a problem with theming 4 tracks at a time around one theme. Instead of a set of 4 tracks taking you from a bustling freeway to a snow-covered wonderland to a chocolate mountain range to a classic racetrack, you'll go from an ice level to an ice level to, get this, an ice level, and then finally you'll finish things off with a spooky forest. Oh wait, no, sorry, that was the wrong world. You'll actually end with an ice level. Something else I don't particularly love about them is how blatantly there always seems to be a correct way to go. And I'm not talking about shortcuts or anything like that, those are obviously par for the course in Kart Racers, but when you come to a split in the road, one of the paths is going to be very clearly the only one you should ever take, which is kinda lame. It also doesn't help that the boost pads in this game are way too powerful. I'm sure I'll get some flack for this, but Diddy Kong Racing feels like a game with a pretty low skill ceiling by kart racing standards. Maybe I've just been spoiled by CTR, which is one of the most skill-based kart racers I've ever played, but a lot of my time racing feels like it was spent looking for the nearest booster because there's no fantastic way to gain speed without them, and some of the tracks basically require you to hit every single one if you want to beat the computers. This is why Mario Kart has mini-turbos, so that using them to their fullest extent not only helps you catch up with pure racing skill, but also makes you feel awesome when you repeatedly pull them off. I find it pretty hard to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna win this race, as I just follow the exact same path as the AI, because why would I ever deviate from it? I should probably clarify that every track from every racing game is gonna have a line that you should take every time for the fastest lap, but they've never felt more artificial and underwhelming as they do here. But regardless, we're talking about a kart racer, so I have a tradition to uphold. Let's count down my ranking for every track in this game, from worst to best. Here we go. Number 20, Frosty Village. I'm not so sure you can call 3 cabins a village, and the rest of the theming just isn't doing anything for me. I also hate how it's virtually impossible to see the boost pads coming throughout basically the whole track. Number 19, Everfrost Peak. In general, I think the plane tracks are the most hit or miss for me, and this one has less interesting going on than basically all the other ones, so it's down here as a miss by default. Number 18, Windmill Plains. I don't find this track very fun unless you use the planes, but repeatedly squeezing into tiny little tunnels isn't particularly fun when you're flying, so that's unfortunate. Also, these tree hitboxes seriously need to lie the hell down. Number 17, Ancient Lake. As the first track of the game, it's pretty understandable that it's not too crazy, but that just kinda makes it boring. At least it has a big ass dinosaur. Number 16, Whale Bay. I find it annoying just how many of the tracks in this game are glorified circles, but I do like that you use one of the whales for the shortcut. Number 15, Pirate Lagoon. It was kinda tough deciding if this one was better or worse than the last one, but despite how annoyingly sharp a lot of its turns are, it's just more interesting to race because it has a better layout. Number 14, Snowball Valley. I like the path split, and it's cool that one path gives you 2 blue balloons, with the downside being that it's a tight squeeze and throws you back on the track at a less optimal angle, but aside from that, all these big, wide open areas are just boring and annoying. Number 13, Treasure Caves. This is where the tracks start to actually be really fun. I think Treasure Caves would have honestly been a perfect starting point for the game, since it knows how to make simplicity interesting with really fun locales. Number 12, Hot Top Volcano. This is how you do a plane track. It's open but not too open, and the choice between taking optimal lines or going out of your way for a bonus is constant throughout basically the whole thing. Number 11, Boulder Canyon. This track has the potential to be one of the absolute best, but what the f are these logs? Seriously, I need to call someone about these logs. Dear Jesus, what the f are these logs? Number 10, Fossil Canyon. Honestly, I mostly just like this one because of the cool transition from the more lush, oasis-like area to a dark tunnel to a barren, sandy wasteland. This ending section is sketchy as hell though. Number 9, Jungle Falls. This is another example of how to make a basic track really fun. Not only is it just generally enjoyable to race, it keeps things interesting the whole way through, and the boost pad hiding in the fossil head is an easy highlight. Number 8, Greenwood Village. Hey, what's your guys' favorite commandment? I think mine is thou shalt not make a shortcut that is slower than the normal ass path, goddammit. At least the rest of it's really fun. Number 7, Space Dust Alley. Future Funland has easily the best set of tracks in the game, and this is the perfect introduction to that fact. It's just one of those tracks that perfectly exemplifies why we have 3 vehicle options in this game, and flying around all the bars of electricity is pretty damn sweet. Number 6, Haunted Woods. While I do enjoy the locales of this track, I mostly just find it to be a really fun one to drive, and it's one of those that makes you say, what the hell? How did we get back to the starting line? Into the top 5, we have number 5, Spaceport Alpha. Easily the best plane track in the game. The tight spaces never overstay their welcome and help you seamlessly transition from one room to the other. Not to mention you get to do the goddamn trench run from everyone's favorite movie, Jar Jar Kart. Number 4, Star City. This track is just pure cool, and it's one of the only ones in the game where I feel like my character's turning stat really means anything. Number 3, Walrus Cove. I'm pretty thoroughly shocked to see a Snowflake Mountain track all the way up here, but what can I say? They nailed this one. It's just a great layout with tons of interesting stuff going on, and not only does it have a loop, but then the track continues on to go through the middle of said loop, which is sick as hell. Number 2, Darkmoon Caverns. Pop quiz, what's better than a loop? The answer is 2 loops with super unique and awesome scenery surrounding them. Wide turns, sharp turns, open areas, closed areas, spaceships shooting at you, it's just a perfect track. And to prove once and for all that I am biased beyond belief, Number 1, Crescent Island. We've got tropical environments, we've got awesome alternate paths and shortcuts, and we've got a freaking pirate ship, hell yeah. So why am I biased for putting this at number 1? Well, one of the reasons I like this track actually has nothing to do with the track itself. Basically, when Naughty Dog is getting ready to work on CTR, they recreated this track for Crash in order to prove to Sony that the PS1 could handle it, which is probably why the first track in that game has, what do you know, giant pirate ships. So even when I'm praising Diddy Kong, it all comes back to Crash. I probably should feel worse about it than I do. Sorry fellas out there, should've had you get your ladies out of the room before I won them all over with that pure masculine energy. Can't help it, it's just what Diddy Kong Racing does to people. In addition to the standard one-shot races you'll be doing throughout Adventure Mode, there are also the Silver Coin Challenges, the Boss Races, the Trophy Races, and the Challenge Levels. Trophy Races are the simplest of them. It's basically just another run through each track in that world Grand Prix style, trying to get the most points by the end. And because of that, they're kind of unremarkable. At least they do eventually help you unlock the final world and even open up a secret for you. One of the characters from the manual, a rooster named Drumstick, is said to have tried to take Wizpig on all by himself and gone missing. But once you've collected all 4 first place trophies, a unique looking frog appears in the hub world, and crushing his little bones under your hulking metal vehicle reveals that it was him all along. And as a reward for freeing him from Wizpig's curse, you unlock him as a playable character. As for the other unlockable character, TT the Time Trial Clock, prepare a change of pants because you're not gonna believe this, you have to beat all his time trial ghosts. What we're really here for though are obviously the boss races, since they go all out in making them interesting. Not only are all the big bads massive, but they all come with their own unique tracks and their own methods of screwing you over. But I don't know, man, the difficulty of these things was all over the place. The first one actually gave me quite a hard time since I was still learning the controls, but most of the other ones fell like dominoes as soon as I knew what I was doing. In the end, I'd say the first world's boss is easily the most difficult of the 4 since there's just so much to avoid, and the opposite end of that has gotta be Bluey the Walrus, who put up no fight whatsoever on either difficulty. Oh yeah, there are 2 difficulties for each one. When you beat them the first time, they send you off to go do the Silver Coin Challenges and will rematch you once you do. On the topic of the Silver Coin Challenges, they're kinda lame to be honest. It's a fine idea, hiding 8 silver coins throughout the track and challenging you to collect them all while still coming in first, but I just don't know if these tracks have enough going on for it to be difficult without being super annoying. If you put them in crazy hard to reach time-wasting spots, you'll never stand a chance at catching up, but when you do it like this, it's like, oh no, gotta move slightly more to the right for this one, god I'm so entertained. Each of the first 4 worlds also has a key hidden in one of its tracks, which unlocks that world's challenge level. They're basically just this game's equivalent of battle mode. Sometimes you gotta collect something while stealing it from others, sometimes you gotta fight to the death. They're whatever, you do have to beat them all to see the end of the game, but overall I'd say they're kinda harmless. Once you've beaten each of the 4 available bosses twice, you'll have collected every piece of the Wizpig amulet, which opens his big Rushmore-ass head and lets you fly in to challenge him. It's a fittingly chaotic race where you're gonna need to hit as many boost pads as you can manage while he goes wild. The boost pad idea actually makes sense here and works super well. I just wish it hadn't bled over into the normal game. I decided to take him down with Drumstick. Since I like the fast characters the best, I had just unlocked him, and of course, he has a score to settle. It took me about 15 minutes to get the pig's number, and then it was party time. A party which Wizpig, of course, crashes before calling down a friggin' spaceship and flying away. I obviously knew this was coming, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't kinda come out of nowhere. Like imagine if you were just watching a YouTube video and then all of a sudden... Thankfully, it turns out that the lighthouse that's been uselessly sitting there the whole game is actually a secret rocket which can take us to the final area of the game, Future Funland. As I said before, this is the absolute best set of tracks in the game, and it makes me pretty happy that they're the last 4. Ending on a game's high note is always a good idea. I do think it's kinda strange that this is the only world to not have a challenge level or a trophy race though. I figured it was because they just didn't have anything left that they needed you to collect, but they could have just given you more golden balloons, and the fact that the game ends with the odd total of 47 of them leads me to believe they were probably just short on time. So after racing through all 4 tracks, once normally and once for the silver coins, you'll have theoretically completed everything, leaving you with one final rematch against Wizpig as he travels aboard a rocket of his own. This track is utter nonsense, and I, alongside everyone else, remember it as one of the most difficult races from any kart racer. But man, I cleaned this bitch out in less time than the first race, even when making tons of mistakes. It's really not hard. For some reason, his rocket starts malfunctioning when he loses, sending him crashing down to a nearby planet and turning him into the bacon he deserves to be. Or at least I wish that's what happened, because after a montage of the island being all happy now that we've saved it, they tease that he's coming back. This made me way more upset than it had any right to. Why can't anyone just end their story, man? You don't have to leave everything open for a sequel, and it kinda ruins the end of your game for me when you never end up actually following up on it. There was gonna be a sequel back on the GameCube called Donkey Kong Racing, but then Rare was bought by Microsoft, so much for that. But at least we have Diddy Kong Racing. This is still a great game, but do I still think it's the secret gem that's been keeping Sonic out of kart racing's top 3? In retrospect, I think I was doing All-Stars Racing a bit dirty by saying that in the first place. Just for laughs, I decided to go back and check out the DS version, and I'm kinda surprised at how much of it is different. Some of the tracks are slightly changed, some of the item upgrade paths are different, some DS-specific mechanics are there, it's got more unlockable characters, and a bunch of the unlock requirements are different, the silver coin challenges are just replaced, and it even has 4 more tracks. And hey, your item doesn't get overwritten by other colored balloons anymore, look at that! I guess they listened. I would say it honestly changes enough to make it stand on its own as a completely separate entity from the N64 version, but I think I prefer the original, even with its problems such as occasional blatant lag. If I'm going back to play this game again, it's almost certainly gonna be this version. Adventure 2? Oh, it's the same thing as the first adventure, but like mirror mode? Do I really wanna... No.